All right, so we'll talk about what a mole is. A mole is just like a dozen, as in a dozen of donuts. It's a unit and it measures the amount of a substance. So a dozen, for example, measures donuts or anything. A dozen of donuts is 12 donuts. A dozen of water bottles is 12 water bottles. We just use it for donuts, but it can be used for anything. Okay, so then a mole is very similar to that. So it's also a unit, but it's a unit that's used to count the amount of molecules or atoms. So 1 mole is this huge number right here. And then 1 dozen is just 12, as we know. 2 moles is 2 times this huge number, which is another huge number right here. And then 2 dozen of donuts is 24 donuts. So the reason we use the mole is because it's just nobody even knows how to say this number here. It's a huge number. It's past the trillion. So it wouldn't even be 1,204,000,000. It'd be some bigger number. So instead of trying to figure out how to pronounce these huge numbers, or even or even if you knew how to pronounce them, instead of dealing with them because they're just so complex, we chemists just use the mole. So they'll say like, okay, there's 2 moles of hydrogen atoms, or something like that, or maybe there's like 2.71 moles of hydrogen atoms, and that'll take into account, like if this was like 271 here and a bunch of zeros, we'd only take into account the first few numbers here, and the rest would just be approximated to be 0 because they're pretty negligible. They're non-significant. So the reason we use moles is because atoms and molecules are just too small, so we need a new unit, and that unit is the mole. And then again, just to really cement it in, we don't want to say there are 602 trillion molecules of water in a cup of water. Instead, we'll say, oh, there are 2 moles of water in this cup of water. Because when you're dealing with atoms and molecules, if you think about a cup of water, for example, there are billions and billions of little tiny molecules that we can't even see that are in there. So we can't actually say that, okay, there are 629,318,218,308 of them. Instead, we just say there's 3.08 moles of them. So having the mole makes it easier to articulate the amount of very small substances. So then 1 mole is equal to this huge number here, as we said. And previously, I just displayed it in regular notation, but you're really supposed to display it in scientific notation. I just did that in case you guys don't know how to do this conversion. And this number is called Avogadro's number. So if you see Avogadro's number, it's equal to this number here. And this is again this is just like the 12 in dozen. This is the amount that makes up 1 mole, just as in 12 makes up 1 dozen. All right.